Hey, hello. This is probably going to be a short video. Um, but the original point of the channel was people was asking me lots of questions, and I thought instead of, responding each one at DMs, I would just do videos on them. So, this is a video, and it's sort of a common question. I just want to put it together so I can just show someone this if anyone asks. Again, it's around the sort of 5 drop slot that happens with not just my list, but just Blue Steel in general. Because you might see my list, it changes quite a bit. I mean, I quite hyped up Chi and Pow. I was on Hardhead Beast for a long time, but now even today, if you check it right now, check it this second, it might change again. But check it right now, it will be Tragic Beast. But it could be changing to the other two as well. And Cogsworth has always been in the list. So I just wanted to go over sort of why they keep changing around, why someone would want to change them around, the benefits of them all. So yeah, when you think to yourself like, oh, I want to have a list, maybe you want to use my list and you go and check it and it's not running the hard head anymore, and you might think, oh, why have they changed it around? Okay, let's try not to be as convoluted as I am with this sounding it. So the 5 drop slot is, I'd say, half and half contested. For a while, it was like 8 5 drops in Blue Steel, and then we sort of realized you could go down on that to about 3, and now at this point I'm at 2. So we have 6 5 drops in total. Because actually, before I go any further, we'll just mention Cogsworth. In my opinion, it's just a 4x staple. It's great for singing Whole New World. It's insane for every steel matchup. It protects the board. Might even be the reason you win your steel matchup. It just fits the card very well. We don't do board wipes like Be Prepared. That's why Steel plays it and Red doesn't play it. So in my opinion, yeah, you just 4x that card out. It fits the slot nicely. We've seen some issues where you play into a red deck and they just Maui it when it's exerted, but they just Maui anything. So it really cares. The new big Sisu is now even giving it more problems because it can get it, and there'll be a few other things like, let's say, Lemon and Lime can put it under your deck without even having to attack reduce. But I think just overall the net positive into a lot of matchups, the Mirror, Amber Steel, Green Steel, Purple Steel, even can do work into RP. I mean, it can still sing you a whole new world. I think it's a really good card, so we just keep that at 4x, in my opinion. I have seen people run it down to 3x, and I'm not really sure. I'm not sure I'm there yet, understanding why you'd want to put it at 3x. I think it's such a good card for the deck. It fits it perfectly. The idea of singing Whole New World and flooding, this helps you flood and protect. So yeah, I think honestly you keep that at 4x. But then the other slot, like I say, we used to have 8 for a while and set 2 and set 3 lists, and you just might even you'd 4x Cogsworth, 4x Tragic Beast. But that's sort of coming down again. It came down in set 3 to about 3 characters, and now it's down to about 2. And now we're sort of flexing around of what they can be. In a sense, that 5 drop character just needs to be played and then sing Whole New World. That's its sort of barest um, requirements for being a card that fits that slot. But from there, we can go a bit more complicated with it. Tragic Beasts, this one here, I think is just overall good for consistency, for card draw. It provides you card draw, which is in a card draw game. It provides you card draw in a card game that is just good. So if you haven't hit the whole new world but you want to set up the beast, you can play that and get your card draw. You'll notice now versus red purple, um, it will get you 2 card draws if it's not dealt with by a B King because you can put a Mickey next to it. And then by the time that it comes to 6, they're gonna have their turn's gonna be Medusa. So you can even play around with that and sort of use that knowledge to yourself. Use that knowledge, in the game and try and play around it or try play with it and see what your reaction can be to Medusa. So I think just overall, it's just a great card. Gives you card advantage and into any other deck that's not any other deck that doesn't have Medusa, it just does amazing work. It's kind of in that Diablo category of once it's on the board, it has to be answered. You put a question out on the board and say like, here is a card that's going to draw me an extra card every turn unless you do something about it. If that be put damage on it, or if that be um, actually fully removing it with some sort of removal action or removal character. But yeah, it instantly puts a question on the board, and if it's not answered, you get a massive payoff. And anyway, it sings Whole New World for you, so it's just really good card. If it's Gazetted, when it hits into Maui, it takes one more damage, so it can then their board can be cleaned up a lot nicer with a grab your swords. So yeah, I think overall, if you're not trying to tech towards any deck or any meta, I think just Tragic Beast in there. Remember, card draw is king in any card game. So yeah, that's kind of where my base is at right now, and that's why I've been trying it out again, and that's why I've been kind of liking it. The meta seems to change a lot. We know we have a lot of RP coming around, but I think it's still really good into RP. And then for an open field like a regional where you just you expect the room to be a lot of RP and maybe a lot of green steel as well. But you sort of it still has a really good game into those two decks as well. So yeah, I think that's sort of the base level non-tech strongest card in the slot as the other 5-drop in the deck. But as I say, if you want to play around with it a bit more, at the start of the set I was quite heavy on Hardhead Beast, and that was because we were just coming off um, Blue Steel being probably the best deck, or I mean, still it's Blue Steel, it's a really good deck, but Blue Steel was being insanely powerful, but it just had this really harsh matchup into Ruby Amethyst, not Ruby Amethyst, Ruby Sapphire, sorry. It was just losing really, really hard to that, and we were trying anything to slow them down and make that matchup a little bit better. And we found breaking an item like Quill when we went against them, and then having a 5-drop to sing on the board was really good. So we've all gone to that, and I kept that for a while. And my other points, I still stand by them. At the worst, into a lot of matchups, it's a 4/4 on the board that quests for 2, and you can do some nice maths with that. So that with a Smee will take out a castle. So even into Ruby Amethyst, where there is no items to break, there's a lot of things you can do with it. It will force a Ruby Sapphire, even after you took out the Quill, to have an ice block to do the cost reduction and take it out. 4 damage clears most things these days as well, and because we don't get the card draw buff, we're kind of okay with it hitting things. I'm not saying like you wouldn't trade if you didn't have to, if you needed to with this card for a Tragic Beast, but you want that card draw, so you'd think twice about it. But yeah, as I say, it's the worst. He's a 4/4 that quests for 2, and at the best, he can be the reason why you've won the Mirror or the Ruby Sapphire matchup. I quite liked as well, knowing that my deck just had lots of options. So like, just knowing I could break items was quite nice for me. Because you go against some people who've got weird things like Spellbook. It still lingers around sometimes. Flutes, I'm not saying flutes is going to be a problem for you, but if they're not expecting you to break a flute and you break a flute, that's kind of cool as well. And just a multitude of items, and it's just nice to know that my deck can break an item if I needed to at some point. So even like a dime later on in the game, where the 5 cost won't be as too impactful, and you could do other things, and even so, you've got a 4/4 quest for 2, like I say. Um, so yeah, I thought overall it was just nice to have item destruction in the deck. He's got a good body, got a good quester. So he's not bad in that slot either, but he is a bit more tech towards if the meta has a lot of item decks that you want to beat. So Mirror and Ruby Sapphire is what you're looking at there, and then the whole kind of multitude of other items that you might find scattered around in other lists, mainly just flutes as I'm thinking of. But break a spellbook if you want. I'm not saying it really matters if they have a spellbook up or not, but it was just sometimes nice where people were banking on their win con being an item, and then you could break it. So it was just nice to know I had options in the list, is what I'm trying to say, on top of it being a tech for like Ruby Sapphire and Blue Steel, Quill and Dime based decks. But the other drop as well that sort of keeps going in and out of my list was Chien Pao. And yeah, I've been trying that out with the new aerial build that I posted. That's been quite a lot of fun. Like I say, I'm not shy of saying I don't know if that's meta or not. I don't know if that's good enough to compete at a regional, but I think it's fun, and I think it's a lot of interesting parts to it. Most people argue Chien Po is there for the Ruby Amethyst matchup because it's just not going to die to Maui. It will die to Maui and then some other things, but you can use it to protect your board. And I think, yeah, veering off from that, it just protects your board, and that's really nice tech for matchups that are quite aggressive. A 4/7 will bother most steel matchups as well. So on top of it being quite good into Ruby Amethyst, it will bother quite a lot of steel matchups because they just won't know what to do with it. If you play a Cogsworth down as well, that's like a lot of resist, and then you can do things like protect your aerial, protect your Mickeys and Smees from being taken out by easy trades. Just overall protect your board, but he does only quest for 1. And sometimes there'll be a point with a dime where you just want to play something that will that can quest for two, so you can tap it, and then you'll be, 2/20ths of a way closer to winning your game. So yeah, I think it's a good card, but it's a tech for sort of aggressive board trading and stuff like that. And it mainly is Ruby Amethyst. I think my best example is that aerial protection and protecting any other thing that's on your board. So probably your Smee and a Mickey that's also on the board as well. But yeah, I think that's a good tech card for protecting it, and I would mainly say Chi Powers for Ruby Amethyst. But just I think it's also good into steel matchups as well. It kind of goes back to my point I'm trying to make with Hardhead, where it's good into one thing as your tech thing, but that doesn't mean it's not going to do other work in other matchups as well. It still can have that value. But yeah, overall, go through them again one more time. Cogsworth, I think, is just included in that 5-drop slot. He's probably the best card that we have. One of the best cards we have in our deck. Um, Most people will know to quit if you've just played 2 Cogsworths down and you've won the board heavy, because they're never going to beat the resist, and they're never going to be able to get them out if we don't exert them. Even Big Cindy will struggle because you've got that one resist now if you play 2 down on the board. So I think that just has to be 4x'd. Hardhead's good in a meta that's got a lot of items. So Quill Dime metas, so Sapphire metas. But on top of that, he can break Rogue Dex items. 4/4 is pretty good. 4 damage is just nice. It can clear most things. It can do a lot of work there. Um, but yeah, besides that, it's just decent body and breaks items. And Tragic Beast, as I say, it draws you cards. You can't really take the value away of the drawing cards. And on top of that, if they're not going to clear it completely, it does 7 damage, which takes out a Queen's Castle or takes out pretty much everything in the meta. It will just trade perfectly into. So yeah, it's just a good card all round. But I wouldn't say you would play this card for a certain matchup. I think you just play it because the amount of value it provides when you play it. It's a power card. Yeah, so that's kind of what I've been playing with right now. But of course, all of these things swap around for me. And Sheehan Pals, yeah, as I say, it's protecting the board. It will protect that aerial for you. It will protect your smaller characters. It will force them to put a lot of resources into one character just to take it off the board. If not, it might even force some crazy stuff like Hades or Let It Go. So yeah, I think that's more for Ruby Amethysts in my opinion, but also just a lot of decks that want to charge and hit your characters. But they can't now because there's a 4/7 on the board and he's turned sideways with Bodyguard. But yeah, as I say, these will keep chopping in and out of my lists, and that's sort of been my reasoning for why I like these cards. So thank you.